Here we go now. Here we go now. All right, if it's Tuesday, that could mean only one thing, and it is time for some That's right. It's time for some because at Comic Book School Live, we give you all the you can handle and eat. And speaking of I'm going to bring on my beloved co-host before I go too far. The man, the myth, the himself, Mike Fasolo.
Hey, bud, you already went too far with the too many mms.
Is it really? Can you ever have too many?
Yes, there could. There was too many.
Did I jump the shark?
You did. Yep, you went, I think, probably 2 or 3 too many.
2 or 3 too many. You know, it's funny, and then it's just overdone, and that's where I come in. So, Mike, tonight we are talking about and like this is yet another thing I made up minutes before the show, driving home, and I just thought I like this one.
All right. Well,
all right.
It seems good. I like it so far.
By the way, Mike, I have a question for you. We were talking off camera. Do you hold on? See, too late. I jumped the shark. There you go. Mike, I'm a little stunned. You don't listen to Smartless, the podcast?
Like I said, I'm not a podcast guy. Like I just don't think of putting a podcast on and listening to it. I'm either listening to music or I'm just sitting there in silence, thinking, contemplating with the brain.
People should listen to Smartless. And then also, Mike, did you do your homework? Did you watch this? Because we're going to talk about this at some point. Poker Face. Did everybody watch Poker Face?
I did not rewatch it. I watched the first episode, which I told you about. But I should have rewatched it. You got to remind me of these things, but I don't think about the show.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I can't stop listening to Smartless, and I binge watched Poker Face. Loved it. Great show for storytellers. Written and directed many of the episodes by Ryan Johnson and starring Natasha Lyonne.
I saw the first episode and I was on it, but since you say it's so great, I'll tune in again.
It is great, and it's called Smartless, Glenn. And we're going to talk a little bit tonight, Mike, about memorable micro moments. Mike, a memorable micro moment is one of those moments in a book, a movie, a television show, or even a comic book that literally just sticks in your head. You can see the entire movie, but when people are quoting lines, often they are quoting memorable micro moments, right? Nobody quotes the whole movie. They quote just a micro moment. Now, sometimes micro moments can be particularly scary. They can be particularly poignant. In a lot of cases, they're just funny because it sometimes will punctuate the stress of a scene or otherwise just be memorable. This is what I'm calling a Mike.
It stands to reason. There are 3 M's.
Well, when you write, you think of the story, but as you're going through, sometimes you'll just put a micro moment in there that literally will make you chuckle, but will also, connect with the audience. Do you think like that when you're writing?
No, I just kind of if it happens, it happens. Like, I think a lot of these micro moments just happened. I don't know if they were, put in there on purpose. I'm sure some of them were, but
Well, let's go to the one of the most memorable micro moments. You're gonna need a bigger boat,
yeah,
like that is a quote that literally, it's been parodied, it's constantly referenced. Did you guys ever parody this at
oh
any
yeah,
point in Robot Chicken?
we've done, we did quite a few Jaws things. Yeah, you're gonna need a bigger boat.
What makes this or any other micro moment important in the narrative, Mike?
Well,
What works for it for an audience, and
well,
why
for
is it
this,
important?
this is where I think that they first got a look at Jaws. Like, see actually how big the shark is.
Yeah, Aliens has a few micro moments, right? Like that micro moment, and there's micro moments in Aliens, right? Game over, man,
Yeah.
right? There's like little pullouts. Now I want to show some, film ones, and then I'm going to get into some comic book ones because I think the comic book page can be just as effective. But you're going to need a bigger boat is a great example of just a line that contextually stands on its own, but is a micro moment that made the movie better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that will often show up in a movie trailer. Two micro moments here. Mike, you gave us the one on the left. Tell me what this micro moment is.
That'll do, pig. That'll do. That's from Babe, where, Farmer Hoggett, Babe did his thing. Farmer Hoggett wins, and he's all proud of the pig because the pig did what he needed to do.
Pig did what he needed to do. It was a micro moment that was in keeping with the character of the farmer and of the pig. And yes, I cried my eyes out when it was like,
I read somewhere that line is what made him do the movie. Like, he read the script and he was like, yeah, it's okay. But then when he read that line, he was like, all right, I'm in.
yeah, I mean, that's a micro moment. It's a pivotal moment in the movie. It is a significant part in the movie. But Glenn Gatilla likes $2. He
Yep.
likes $2. This is Johnny when he's threatening.
John Cusack.
What's John Cusack's character?
John Cusack.
Anyway, and he's got the fake switchblade, which is really a comb, right? And the memorable micro moment about this is if anybody grew up with this movie as we did, you could just somebody says $2 and everybody
Yeah.
goes $2,
You
right?
automatically launch in. I want my $2.
Right. Like nobody, it wasn't essential to the movie. The That'll Do Pig was like the punctuation to the movie. This is just a micro moment that is memorable and it's funny and people get it. And I think that's one of the things that makes that movie so good is there's so many memorable micro moments. And I love that. Oh, by the way, Glenn Gatilla, even being a nice contributor, and the Queen in Alien, get away from her, and in the movie Aliens, that's two Aliens, the second
Aliens
movie,
2, yes.
Aliens,
Not
plural.
Aliens 2, Aliens.
All right, so we're gonna take a look at a couple more micro moments. This was another one of yours, Mike. Why is this a memorable micro moment?
Run, Forrest, run. This was what you have to remember about. No, there's two things about Forrest Gump. It's life is like a box of chocolates, and Run, Forrest, run are the memorable micro moments for Forrest. That's what you associate with Forrest because he runs.
And I think this is a memorable micro moment. This is when he comes out of his leg braces. That's when we see that he's an incredibly fast runner. We see the focus of the character, but I think it was the friend, the girlfriend yelling, "Run, Forrest, run!"
Jen A.
Right? That made what was her name?
Yeah.
Jenny.
Jen A.
Gen A, that made the scene so memorable, right? Like it in the hands of another director, this thing might not have worked, but as a memorable micro moment, it was perfect, right?
Yeah.
And I show you this, and you know exactly the scene it is.
Yep. And I'm guessing that this wasn't written to be a memorable micro moment. It was just in there and it just became one
It
because
became one.
yeah.
So now I've taken a whole bunch of movie ones. I want to take you through a few panels. Now, one of the things that I'd like to note is that when I was doing my very first monthly work, Jimmy Palmiotti was the lead writer. I was sort of the writer in training on Deadpool. And one of the things that Jimmy always insisted on was every issue has to have some sort of memorable moment, something that, outside of the storyline, you need to have a panel here or a panel there that people will get a chuckle out of, right? Too many people play it very straight. When you think of music where, like you have a song that plays, stops, and then starts again, there's a memorable moment, right? Like you think about like a drum thing, gunk, 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 and that's where Jimmy was always saying, let's find a memorable micro moment. He didn't call it that, but just always make sure your stories have something in there that's special. So I've grabbed a few panels, Mike, for you to check out with me for memorable micro moments. You tell me what you think, okay?
Are these stuff from yours that you did?
Some. So this is a funny one that says the woman says, "Well, that's strange," and she says, "What's strange? My X-ray vision is picking up some weird plastics in your Supergirl." Right?
Yeah.
Like this is a panel that's been shown over and over. It's not essential to the story, but it builds character development. It's humorous. It shows like who the characters are. It's a memorable moment. It's a memorable micro moment, literally so memorable that this panel has been cut out dozens of times. I pulled this off of CBR. I put the URL here. It was the #1 most awkward Supergirl moment.
Okay. It's funny. I like it.
Funny, right? It didn't define the whole book.
Yeah.
But it was a micro moment where you go, oh, good. It's like a well-timed joke.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's good. I think it also, it lends to Supergirl's character. I'm guessing this is when she first comes to Earth or close to it.
I have no idea. Never read the issue. All I've ever seen is the panel.
Yeah. So she probably doesn't know, social niceties. And then she just comes to say, hey, there's some weird plastics in here.
Yeah. But then the voice coming from off panel, Supergirl. All right. Again, I never read the comic, but right there's a micro moment that gets passed around. This is one that I did work on. They're using night vision glasses, and Deadpool, he says, it must be dark, but I can see very good at night. And he's like, oh, the novelty wears off eventually. And then he goes, hey, I think they're going to get it on. And then the beat panel is he puts the night goggles on as well, right? They're on a stakeout. And this actually has been reprinted in a number of different publications. And one of the things about it was this was intentionally put in there just to have a beat moment. They're on a stakeout. He's fascinated by these night goggles. Deadpool is laying back, could not be less interested. He's like, yeah, you've got watch. But when he says, hey, they're going to get it on, Deadpool's up, right? That's it. That's the joke. But that was one of the things that Jimmy helped me to understand that you need to do in your writing, which is, find a memorable micro moment. Didn't change the book, but it was certainly entertaining enough for people. This has been sometimes snipped and shared around the interwebs, Mike.
Good job, bud. And Jimmy.
Yeah, credit. If it was good, Jimmy probably did it. All right, here's another one. I just like this one a lot. Deadpool, right in keeping. Shh, my common sense is tingling. Just a good one. Just a funny one-liner that literally, like a lot of these other things, has gotten clipped out and just dropped into different things. It's a memorable moment that doesn't take up a lot of story space, but for a writer, it's fun to put in there and entertain the audience with.
Yep. I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
Tell me if you like this next one. Matt Murdock, constantly
Yes.
constantly being outed as Daredevil, goes to a Christmas party and wears a T-shirt that says, "I'm not Daredevil."
That is another good one. Made me giggle.
Made you giggle, right? Like it's in keeping with the character. It doesn't take you out of the story. It references other previous storylines, but literally him just wearing a shirt is a memorable micro moment. And quite literally, I pulled this image off of Marvel's website under best panel of the day.
It is a good one.
So you know it when you see it, Mike.
Yep.
All right, here's another one. I'll read this out. And it's a quote from Prometheus. It says, by the time you're all grown up, there's going to be a computer in everybody's home or a trailer wherever they live. Man, they'll probably be as small as a refrigerator by then. Wow. And I just thought, well, that's real. That's a great moment. Not only does it sort of give you the context of what they think of computers and the size of computers, but it's fun, it's entertaining, it doesn't distract you, and it was a memorable micro moment. What do you think?
I think that one's okay. All right.
All right, you're not thrilled with it.
No, I
I
don't know
love
if I
this
would.
one. This
I
is
don't know
the
if I would
first
remember
page. It's a splash page off of Daredevil 353. It says, "Trust me," said the devil.
that. Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one, right?
That is a good one.
Trust me, said the devil. By the way, I will note a little bit of dramatic tension there. I will note that many of these I have posted out on the Twitters, Mike. And if people want to follow me on the Twitters, they can use this at Comic Book School, where sometimes I'll find something that I really like and I will share these memorable micro moments. What do you do on your Twitter, Mike? Anything?
Occasionally I'll post something, but no.
Russ posted something that you made a painting of Spider-Man for him or
Oh
something.
yeah, I painted him. Thing of Spider-Man. Did he post a picture of it?
He did. Is mine in the mail?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Dude, that was cold. All right. Now this one, just for context, I wanted to show it because it was on Twitter. I wanted to show the whole panel. Top two frames here. Let me see if I get the mouse. Top two frames here. He's waking up. Here he is in bed. But I wanted to do a zoom in on show this memorable micro moment. Literally, if you just check out how he is walking in a Z pattern down the stairs, putting his robe on, going to the landing, down a little bit further, down to the next landing, all the way down to the next landing, all the way down to the bottom. This was drawn by Frank Miller. He didn't have to do a panel like this, but as a memorable micro moment, he literally only has 2 words of dialogue on here. But the important thing is he really puts you into the story, and it doesn't always have to be dialogue. Sometimes it's just the way the panel's drawn. This is an incredible panel, isn't it?
This one doesn't do anything for me.
This one doesn't do anything for you?
No.
I find this to be an incredible panel. The way he had to compose. What does everybody else think? Is anybody watching the show? Hello?
Hello.
Anybody, who's with me and Mike? I think this is an incredible panel.
Yeah. It's just, to me, it would have been just another panel showing him walking downstairs.
This panel makes my heart aflutter.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I just think it's incredible. And you can find it on the Twitters by Klaus Toon. This one's 3 panels, but it's important to note the last panel. Okay, hold on. Yeah. Come on, Mike. He's totally naked. And Glenn Gatilla. It's just me, you, and Glenn, Mike, on most of these. Out of Watchmen #1, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. The most amazing is the last panel, is quoted right here. The accumulate. I'll do my Rorschach voice.
Right,
And he says, the accumulated filth and all their sex and murder from up out of their waists and up around the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us." And I'll look down and whisper, "No."
Good old Rorschach.
Yeah. literally one. And there wasn't much I could do. I made this as big as possible. I was like, well, I can fit all 3 panels, but right there, when I read that the first time I read it, I like a chill went up my spine, right? Because right there was the definition of what Rorschach was, which was, he was not your typical hero.
Yeah, and I think this was before you actually knew that the guy holding the sign was
Is
Rorschach.
Rorschach, right? Yeah. Spoiler
That's one
alert.
of those things. Yeah. So when you go back and you read it, you're like, oh my God, he was there the whole time. That's why he's there.
Yeah.
It was good.
We just ruined a comic that's 30 plus
Yeah.
years old, but what are you going to do?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. You've had 30 something years. They actually did this pretty well in the movie as well. I think that Zack Snyder did a really great job of casting Rorschach. But then this scene, this micro moment, which really comes down to this panel, right? This one last panel. But all 3 work together. Obviously, visual. You've got the extreme close up of the smiley face pulling back. You see the feet. And pulling back further, you see the guy washing the sidewalk and the smiley over here. And I mean, it's an incredibly well put together scene. I love it. You love it.
I bet Glenn loves it too.
And Glenn loves it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, here it is. I know this one.
One of the now the context to this is that Aunt May's friend kept saying, I want you to meet my niece. And Peter kept avoiding meeting the niece and didn't want to meet her because he was like, oh, I'm going to be set up on this blind date. What if she's not pretty? What if I don't like her? Blah, 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 blah. And then finally in issue 42, last panel, the world famous. Go ahead, Mike.
You just hit the jackpot.
Right. And I think they replicated this in the movies, right? In one of the movies?
They've done that. This has been done a million times, and I think we've even parodied it.
Did you? You guys parodied this?
Yeah, the Face It Tiger, you just hit the jackpot.
They even parodied this in the Marvel Zombies, where the Mary Jane is a zombie in that final panel. and now Marvel has a character called Jackpot.
Do they?
They certainly do.
I did not know that.
They certainly do. So it is a panel. It was a micro moment. The entire issue had very little to do with Mary Jane Watson, but this micro moment that came down to these last 2 panels was just wonderful. And it's not just what she says; it's how perfectly he gets his expression in. Like, that is not an easy panel to draw, right? You get him opening the door. You don't see who she is. You're like, oh, who is this? And then you see his reaction to Mary Jane Watson. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Matthew.
Hey.
Creaky.
That's it. Matthew. Thanks for coming.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
That would be a good panel. Hi.
That's it for our memorable micro moments. You'll get many memorable moments when we go to New York Comic Con. So far, this is our schedule. We are confirmed for 2 panels so far: Creator Connection, the ultimate in creator networking. Even the shyest person, the most introverted person, will discover that they are able to network with Creator Connection. Mike, you've been to Creator Connection.
I have been, and I like it because you set people up with each other.
I set you up to succeed.
You do your thing. You're like, hey, you go here and you go here. And because most people, even myself included, wouldn't be like, I'm not going to talk to that person. But when Buddy's there, hey, talk to this person. And you're like, oh, all right.
It's awesome, good fun. And there's a theme here, portfolio workshop and review. We're going to talk with you, creators, about what you need to include in your portfolio. Whether you're going to a big convention, a small convention, or emailing your portfolio, there are certain things that editors and publishers are looking for. We're going to talk about how to set yourself up for success. Now, if we can pull this off, Mike, we are also going to bring cameras up on stage and have a live portfolio review with a couple of victims who will actually get to have their work reviewed by editors and working comic book professionals. We will pick them out I don't know exactly what the criteria will be just yet, but we are going to have some really great pros. More to be announced. Be sure to check out the website. What do you think, Mike?
Excellent. Excellent. I think that's great because people need to know what they need to include.
Oh, and Glenn Gatilla wants to know AfterCon. We don't have the info for AfterCon, but most likely we will do something on Friday and Saturday night at Creator AfterCon. But that's why you got to go to the website so that you know. All right, here we go, Mike. It's trivia time.
Oh boy. You ready for this one?
Let's hold on. I gotta see if I hold on. All right, Mike. You've given us the zone of silence. What do we have here?
That's pretty terrible music.
That was. I thought, you just have to kind of like see what. All right, here. How about this? This is your.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's okay. Yeah. So there's this place in Mexico. This is the Mexican Bermuda Triangle, as they say. It's a place in Mexico where you can't hear radio signals. Cars have broken down. Missiles that have been launched like over it have crash landed there. This little zone, nothing seems to work in, and no one can figure out why. What is it about this? Maybe this is where the pyramid of death is.
That's our secret idea, Mike.
This is.
We haven't even finished the idea yet. Okay, so they call it the zone of silence.
Yeah, because it's like nothing works. You go in there and your radio works right outside. You drive in, radio will just stop.
And
Signals can't get out. Cell phones won't work. Nothing.
How big is this area?
It's not big. It's like, what they say, like 5 kilometers or 3 miles or a couple miles. It's nothing huge. It's just like
converted kilometers into miles. I
do that in my head. Yeah, that's my one superpower.
5 kilometers or miles, whatever.
3 miles or something like that.
How many meters it is, I don't even know. Hold on. Matthew Creaky says, "Is it easier to publish a comic through Kickstarter than traditional?" Matthew?
Yeah.
Well, depends on how you define publishing. Depend, right? We should address Matthew's question. Matthew, it is easier to get your comic book made and released when you want it to be, but defining published as making the comic and putting it out there so it's available at tables, yes. Getting it on the shelves of a comic book store, probably a good deal easier if you go through a publisher because they already have shelf space and you probably won't. What do you think, Mike? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's much easier to do your comic through Kickstarter, but if you really want it published and out there, definitely try to go through the traditional manner of big comic book companies.
Depends on how you define success. All right, Mike, speaking of success, Zone of Silence. Did you want to go first with what you would do with this as a story?
I want to hear how you would make this a comedy. That's what I want to hear.
Oh, easy. There are 2 guys or a group of guys who have to accomplish a mission, be it, get somebody to a bachelor party like The Hangover or some other thing, and they drive into the zone of silence and they are unable to get out because they lose their sense of direction. They can't contact anybody in their cell phones. And then that at night, the entire region is just crawling with weirdos and freaks and thieves, and this zone of silence could be a hysterical vehicle for visual slapstick comedy.
Right. Okay. All right. See, I would have gone with more of a horror movie kind of thing, where they are, a couple is, say, hiking or even driving in there. Their car breaks down in the zone of silence. They wander a little deeper in, and suddenly they're at some mysterious shack where they are kidnapped, tied up. How did they get out? Their cell phone doesn't work. No cars will start. how do they get out? And they're miles and miles in deep, and there's someone trying to kill them.
Horror all the way, Mike.
Yeah. How do you get out?
All right. Well, it's not horror, Mike. Like, commenting, and subscribing to our show. If you like this show, or if you didn't, make sure. Hold on. Glenn says all I got is generic UFO and interdimensional stuff. Comedy. A bunch of Mexican kids take their D&D LARP live action role playing too far and create the zone of silence because their mage went too far with the spell.
I like that. That's pretty good.
Glenn Gatilla. Glenn's always good. It took him a little while to type that up, but it was worth it.
Now, there was one point in our lives where we didn't know what LARPing was, bud.
We shall tell that story one day, maybe in an upcoming episode. We'll see you next Tuesday. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next week for Comic Book School Live.